G'day folks, and welcome back to ThemeCore. The word woke is a battleground. It's either a genuine label for social awareness or a political pejorative. But Zootopia manages to capture, in my eyes, the true positive heart of the word. It doesn't show you a scolding lecture, but it does show you the difficult, messy, and ultimately hopeful work of building an equitable society. Today we're going to have a crack at looking into this franchise that has defied the odds to become a cultural touchstone in a world that's in complete, in my eyes, upheaval at the moment. We're arguing here that Zootopia has managed to retain its enduring popularity across 2 films, a series on Netflix, and accompanying graphic novels, not by being this perfect utopia or a hidden dystopia, but by showing us a woke, with a little w, society in its most realistic form as a frustrating, altruistic endeavor that requires constant, uncomfortable work. It's not a fantasy we might achieve one day. It reveals that our own societies are actually already in that struggle, are already utopias in the works every single day that we're alive. Let's start with the foundation, literally and metaphorically. See, most sci-fi or fantasy utopias are presented as these shiny, finished products. The work is done. But pretty quickly in this franchise, Zootopia is revealed to be different. What looks shiny and complete to the outsider, i.e. Judy Hopps at the beginning of the first film, is actually completely, constantly in upheaval. It's full of moving parts to make it all just survive. And you know what they say about a machine with moving parts? The more moving parts, the more things can go wrong. And its utopian quality, I'm saying here, isn't magic. It's infrastructure, literally. The city is a masterpiece of universal design, doors of every size, transport systems for all bodies, businesses with accommodations built in for everyone who chooses to frequent them. This isn't just colorful world building, it's this powerful, silent, visual argument for the social model of inclusion, or I'm going to use the word equity. And if you've never seen it, this is a good way to describe equity versus equality, something I've used in the past when trying to describe it to people, and I hope you find it useful. Zootopia posits implicitly that disability and explicitly that exclusion in general isn't about an individual's body, be it, size or individual needs and wants, but it's about a society that hasn't bothered to accommodate it. And that's effort, and that should be recognized. It's not on most people's minds to think about everyone else. I mean, we are creatures of habit, and we are creatures that like to group ourselves together, and the largest group of people around us are pretty similar to us. They're just all different shades of shit, really, aren't they? So trying to include those people that are different to you in the next neighborhood over, or the next town or country over, despite the fact that really we're all just kind of the same, water and blood-filled sacks of flesh and bone, is not usually the top priority on our mind. But it is in Zootopia. See, a giraffe isn't quote-unquote disabled by a low ceiling, for example. The ceiling is the problem, not the giraffe, and so they built, a way to get around it. This establishes a core principle that we, should take notice of. Equity is not a natural state in groups of people that choose to live together. It's a deliberate, engineered outcome. It's conscious in its construction, and it needs to be maintained and modified based on new circumstances. This, once again, requires conscious effort. And this kind of brings us to the first pillar of Zootopia's success. Exposure matters. The film presents this inclusive design. In particular, we're talking about the giraffe, but, think about the extra doors, the steps up to things, and, the different sized buildings and sections of the town. It includes and presents this inclusive design as an unquestioned given in this Zootopia utopia. I nearly mix those two words up there. This is tricky for me. It's very late. There's no pat on the back for having ramps. People just accept that that's just what Zootopia is. By repeatedly exposing audiences, especially young ones, to a world where every rabbit belongs, period, it normalizes the very idea of a society built for everyone, for all. It makes the radical feel routine. And that, in itself, is a utopia. And I'm not surprised if at this point you're thinking it's a headache, because that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make. It should be a headache. But here's where Zootopia kind of separates itself from a capital W woke caricature. It doesn't pretend that this beautiful infrastructure erases bias. The architecture enables coexistence, but it doesn't magically create understanding. It's kind of like a build it and they will come situation. The prejudice is still there. We know that, festering under the shiny surface that has been lovingly prepared, and think about the effort that's gone into that to prepare the city to be utilized by all citizens. This sets up the central tension, actually, in the movies. A society can be structurally equitable, which really helps, but it can remain emotionally and systemically broken. It can be divided. The utopia is physical, the dystopia is social. You can build as many ramps as you want, but you cannot force people to view others as deserving them, even if they're already using them. And the fight is to bridge that gap between the physical reality and the social unrest. In number one, that being between prey and predator, and in number two, being between, I suppose, those with and those without, but also those insiders and those outsiders, such as reptiles. Which brings us to the villains. See, in a traditional utopia under siege story, very common, the threat is at least partially externally based. But in Zootopia, the rot is always internal. The big bads aren't invaders. They're established citizens in positions of varying power, usually quite high, exploiting the system's existing flaws. Does that sound familiar to anyone right now in 2026? Let's talk about them for a second. So Mayor Lionheart, the lion, isn't a tyrant seeking power for power's sake. He's a everyday cowardly bureaucrat just trying to preserve his city's image by hiding a crisis, a corruption which is, born from the desire to maintain the status quo, and in particular his own position. Then there's his replacement as mayor, Dawn Bellwether. She's the masterstroke in the first movie. She's not a large, traditionally fearsome predator. She's small, she's meek, she's prey. She's a cute little sheepy weepy. And she's an assistant, Her villainy is the most potent critique here in this first movie. She weaponizes the language of equity and representation to sow fear and consolidate power, despite what could be seen as an internal logic to, better those who have been traditionally disempowered, the prey. She doesn't want to tear down Zootopia. She just wants to control it by making everyone as small-minded and fearful as she is. She reveals the dark side of identity politics, which we're all really bloody familiar with by now. She's not looking at solidarity, but she's looking at factionalism. She's looking at schism. She wants to create rift in that which strives to be whole. She shows that prejudice isn't the sole domain of the powerful. It can be a really sharp tool for the disgruntled to become powerful. And being disgruntled, what do you think they're going to do when they get to power? And haven't we seen that unfold in the last year or so? And can I just point out again the brilliance of the choice to use Bellwether, because it shatters the simple predator equals bad, prey equals good binary that the film itself initially sets up. The villain isn't a savage predator, it's a civilized prey animal manipulating biology, literally controlling people's agency over their bodies as a political weapon. Does that sound familiar? I know I keep coming back to it, but can you recognize the real-world parallels here? The film argues that the greatest threat to an equitable society isn't the obvious monster, but the quiet bigot who has learned to speak the language of progress to mask their regressive goals. And back to the title of this video, I mean, it's not a capital W woke film franchise because it doesn't offer easy answers. It puts you in the uncomfortable situation of showing the system buckling under fear, kowtowing to this idea of predators being, the cause of all evils in the city. The cheater, Clawhauser, that guy on the front desk, he's removed from his position simply for what he is. And let's not forget that there's a no true Scotsman kind of argument, showing the reality of the situation that's happening around the world today. I mean, the good police chief, Chief Bogo, gets to still operate within this biased structure because he is not overtly like the other big animals. He's one of the good ones. Zootopia dares to say that in a woke society, the police can be part of the problem that needs solving, but can also be part of the scapegoating, which is present pretty much on all sides in any society, depending on who you're talking to and which algorithm rabbit hole you're down. I'm glad you found your way into mine, by the way. Don't forget to subscribe. So, circling back, if the infrastructure is so fragile and the threats are internal, what holds it together? Well, the answer is the messy, non-romantic, central, character-driven partnership of Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde. And I talked about this in my previous video a little bit. Hope to talk about it in the future as well, in other videos. See, this is where the film moves from critique to providing a blueprint to you and I. See, Judy and Nick are just two individuals, but they represent the whole. They're not just friends or acquaintances or colleagues. They're a working model of active allyship. And are they a perfect allyship? No, they are not. And that's the whole point. It takes work. And it's a model built on repeated failure and repair. Like Judy, for all her good intentions, is a product of her society. She carries fox repellent, which she got from her redneck parents, took just to keep them happy, but as we soon find out, she, has this subconscious urge to keep by her at all times. It's this motif of her ingrained bias, born from a childhood bully, the little redneck fox Gideon Grey. And this means that her worst moment isn't failing to catch a criminal. It's standing at a press conference and echoing the very biological determinism that Bellwether peddles, which devastates Nick, obviously. And the film makes its hero complicit in this action. It shows that being woke isn't a state you achieve. It's a consciousness you constantly fight to achieve and maintain against your own conditioned reflexes. And I just want to remind you at this point that, racial discrimination and other social inequality and injustice isn't just an imaginary line and sometimes quite concrete fence that is patrolled by the people that actively go out of their way to show this discrimination, but it's also policed inherently by the people who are trying their best to change their society for the better. We've just got to remember that we're all trying our best. And despite constantly basically showing our bias, you got to just remember that everyone else is also doing the same thing. And we're all, just trying to get to the same place where no one wants to hurt anyone else. And we all want to get about our day in a friendly and accessible way. Anyway, moving on. I've ranted too long. So let's talk about Nick for a little bit. Nick's arc is about reclaiming agency. He's internalized the world's low expectations of him being a fox, and he's built this cynical shell as a result. His partnership with Judy isn't about her saving him. It's about him choosing to hope again, to engage and to hold his ally accountable when she fails him. And they do that reconciliation moment under the bridge. It's not a hug and a song. It's an apology. It's a commitment to do better, and this decision to go to work as a team to better their community. This is the franchise's secret weapon. They are the engine. Nick and Judy are the engine that fixes the system. Not by magic, but literally by just showing up, making mistakes, and choosing each other and the work again and again, and forgiving each other along the way and helping each other move through those sticky, tricky moments that we all have. So why does Zootopia endure? Well, because it rejects the easy narrative of being woke with a big W. It's not a dystopia. Its ideals are real and they're worth fighting for. It's not a finished utopia. That fight never really ends, and this is physically demonstrated in the second movie, just for example by the fact that in reaching their goal of fixing the problem at hand of the Linksleys, they let loose all the criminals from the past, including Bellwether. The job is done, but the work goes ever on. Zootopia, as a franchise, presents this woke with a little W vision, not as a distant goal or a smug critique, but as the daily grinding and profoundly altruistic work of maintenance and, like I said, showing up. It makes the comfortable uncomfortable, from the chief who has to confront his own bias to include Judy on the force and give her the opportunity to prove herself, to the prey majority who have to face their fear of being punished for past discrepancies, of, being the ones to do the killing. And it's not to punish them in this narrative, but because that discomfort is the necessary price of making room for everyone. You cannot change the world by making the uncomfortable more uncomfortable. You change the world for the better by making the comfortable the ones who have to suffer a little discomfort to see outside their bubble. Zootopia 1 and Zootopia 2, they have this final message, both of them different in appearance, but both absolutely the same and pretty radical. See, they tell us not to dream of a woke utopia in the future. They reveal that we're already living in a pre-woke utopia, a society that has, however imperfectly, chosen certain ideals based on historical situation and, power dynamics and economics and all the rest of that. The question isn't, can we build it? The questions are, do we have the will, like Judy and Nick, to do the frustrating, continuous work of keeping our society as it is and pushing forward to something more progressive? And most usefully, what is the first step? How do I take that first step in my own daily life to make that process begin? Because in Zootopia, and maybe in our worlds, the utopia isn't the destination. There is no utopia destination. That's the point. The utopia is the work that is required and to be enjoyed along the way with someone we love and trust.